What's up, everybody? You've got to watch this video because I'm fixing to show you one of the biggest collabs that Gas Monkey's ever done, and it is going to blow your mind. And what's this? Well, I said watch the video.
Richard Rawlings is a successful entrepreneur who built his automotive empire through his auto shop, Gas Monkey Garage, and gained popularity by headlining the reality television series Fast and Loud. Many gearheads gathered to watch his show when it launched in 2012, as he shared how he made money from restoring rundown cars and flipping them. However, he didn't always make a huge profit from every project in all the 8 years he was in the series. There were times he lost a lot of money due to wrong decisions, accidents, and disappointing sales. Because of the image and reputation that Richard Rawlings gained from appearing in several successful reality TV shows, some painted him as one who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and that using a helicopter to visit his businesses was a regular thing for him. It was actually far from the truth, but he took everything in stride. While he found it cool that some people perceived him to be like that, during interviews, he'd always corrected the wrong assumptions about himself whenever he had the opportunity to do so. Richard Rawlings was a native of Fort Worth, Texas, born on March 30th, 1969. He was from a working-class family, and while they weren't dirt poor, his father had to work 2 to 3 jobs while he was growing up, just to buy him a toy motorcycle, which he would ride around his neighborhood. When he was 8 years old, he would remember the kinds of cars driving along the paper route that his father took in delivering the morning and evening newspapers in their community. His fascination with car customization was highly influenced by watching and assisting his father tinkering in their garage. At the age of 14, he had his own car, a 1974 Mercury Comet, and before he graduated from high school, he was already driving his third car, a 1977 Bandit Trans Am. This expensive hobby forced him to do odd jobs when he was a teen. One time, he had to fend off a carjacker at 2 in the morning and was shot just to keep his 1965 Mustang Fastback safe and sound. Even before Richard was old enough to legally drink alcohol, he'd already been through several jobs, including as a firefighter, a medic, and a police officer. He did that in a suburb just outside of Dallas for about 6 years and flipped cars and motorcycles as a side. After some time, he left to explore California, driving his new Jeep. He met a hitchhiker from Tucson, Arizona while on the road. Initially, he tried to get rid of him, but then threw caution to the wind and partied hard with him for several weeks in the City of Angels before they parted ways. Richard was only supposed to stay there for a week, but he extended it to 4 months and blew all his savings there. His recklessness resulted in his beloved Jeep being repossessed the very night he returned to his hometown. This made Richard think hard about what he wanted to do with his life. At that time, he worked for a printing company as a salesman. It was then that he found his niche, as his experience with the company enhanced his marketing ability. He worked his way up to become a vice president, and then left to start his own firm called Lincoln Printing. It wasn't easy, as he started from scratch and used his apartment as his initial headquarters until he could afford to rent an office. It became successful, and after 5 years, he sold it for just $200,000, contrary to later reports that it was to the tune of millions. It was in the early 2000s that Richard established the Gas Monkey Garage, but it didn't take off immediately, and he was financially broke twice before it became successful. He recalled in an interview that if one wanted to be humbled in life, the best way to do it was just go to your wife, who was gainfully employed and runs her own company, and ask for $1,000 because you can't write Aaron Kaufman a payroll check. Richard used the little bit of seed money he had from the sale of his printing company in 2004 to help expand the business because of a light bulb moment when he was watching Jesse James and those guys from the Orange County Choppers with his family on TV. He realized that his stepson and wife at that time would leave the room each time those reality shows were airing because they had too much bravado, cussing and kicking boxes around that alienated other people. He said that he wanted to produce a TV series that would cater to the whole family, not solely to men and gearheads. The business side of him wanted the 60% of the market that those shows neglected to consider when they created their content. He hired enough talented people, including Aaron Kaufman, to help him develop street credibility and get noticed on the premier trade show, Specialty Equipment Market Association, SEMA, and other car events by building a reputable automotive customization brand. At first glance at Richard Rawlings' reality series called Fast and Loud, most viewers thought that he had it all easy, but it actually took him about 8 long years before Discovery Channel took notice of his Gas Monkey Garage, and what he'd been pitching to them for quite some time. He never gave up though, and in June 2012, the first episode of his TV show aired on the cable channel. It became so successful that it lasted for 16 seasons, and he appeared in close to 200 episodes, including the specials. However, not all their fixins and flippins were successful when it came to earning huge profits. Among several unfortunate incidents, here are the 5 instances when Richard lost money in the show. Fast and Loud truly knew how to make a grand entrance and blew the viewers' minds during the second season premiere in February 2013. The episode was aptly entitled Mashed Up Mustang, and the heat index in Gas Monkey Garage was over the top as its owner was furious. In this episode, they restored a 1967 Ford Mustang convertible, changed its color from navy blue to solid black, and lowered it. The shop's master painter, Casey, asked Richard for a few more days to ensure that no crooked lines would show up anywhere, by sanding it carefully and putting the primer on properly. The color black was one of the most difficult colors to get straight on a car because it looked like a mirror after it was done, so anyone could easily see waves or lines in it if not done properly. They were more than happy that Casey did a remarkable job. However, while it was out on the road for a test drive, the shop received a call that it was totaled. Apparently, a pickup truck smashed into it when it was making a turn, and the door was crushed up against the fender. It had extensive frame damage, and the engine of the Mustang stopped running as it was hit hard. A witness said that she'd seen someone run a red light and hit the black car. The problem was the guy who was responsible for the accident didn't have any insurance, and while his pickup truck needed only $1,000 worth of repair, Richard's car needed $50,000. Near the end of the first season of Fast and Loud, Richard and his mechanical genius Aaron Kaufman went to the leak car auction in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They took with them the 1948 Chevrolet Fleetmaster, which was restored by the Gas Monkey Garage team to perfection and spent about $25,000 on it. It was one of those projects that saw the team gain much respect from classic car enthusiasts. The sheer disbelief showed on the face of Richard after the bidding was done because the vintage Chevy was only sold for just $11,750, which was incredibly lower than the amount they'd spent restoring it. He said it was fortunate that he found no sharp objects around him at that time, because he could have hurt someone or something with the kind of unimaginable heartbreak that he felt from the financial loss. If he was given a chance to repeat the day, Richard said that he would have followed his instinct to walk away when he noticed that the auction attracted too small a crowd, which meant that there would be fewer people bidding for it, and so the price wouldn't go up. One of the things Richard was so good at was that he had a knack for knowing what cars would sell fast and would double, if not triple, his investments. People were surprised that he lost money with a beautiful, loaded fast car. It was such a bad day for him and his Gas Monkey Garage team, as they were all expecting the shop would end up with big bucks that episode. His team fully restored a 2005 Ford GT Custom Coupe, putting in a new engine with 800 horsepower. When Richard calculated the cost of the restoration, It was initially just around $175,000. It would have been perfect had he stopped there, but he added more features to give it an extra boost. He shelled out another $75,000 to make the car even more attractive to buyers. During auction day at Barrett-Jackson Auction House, instead of placing a reserve option to ensure that no bidder would offer a price lower than the minimum amount that Richard wanted, and so avoid losing money, he removed it. A reserve option meant that during the bidding process, the car would go to the bidder who either met or exceeded the reserve price. If the price wasn't met, the seller wasn't obligated to sell. Removing it could be risky because the seller couldn't reject any bid, but it gave him the potential to earn more as the price could increase without any limit as long as people continued bidding for it. His gamble didn't pay off because he wanted the car to be sold at around $500,000, but in the end, when the bidding war stopped, it was sold for only $230,000, which wasn't enough to cover the bill for the hours of labor that went into it and the parts that they purchased for it. It didn't end there, as Richard still needed to pay for the auction fees, commission, and taxes. In 2020, in a Fast and Loud episode entitled Hot for Firebirds, Richard's team all thought it would be quick and easy to restore and flip a project with a 1967 Firebird convertible that he bought for $10,000. One of his crew members felt that their boss paid a little too much for a vintage car that the latter had only given a cursory glance at, and didn't examine thoroughly, and he was proven right later on. They'd already ordered all the necessary parts, and the only thing left to do at that time was to remove all the ugly ones and replace them with the new ones to make the car shiny and ready to be driven on the road. The problem was that, as they were dismantling each part one by one, they discovered that there was something wrong with the door, and they couldn't figure out why until they removed the carpet and looked underneath. Richard was quite wrong when he thought that the car was untouched, because the bottom of the car was chopped and improperly put back together. It wasn't a car for a rebuild, but a mere source for scrapped parts, with the crusher as its next stop. Fortunately, one of his crew members got hold of another Firebird for sale that was produced in the same year but was worth $25,000, so they could continue with the project. While that lifted Richard's spirits, he knew that he was $35,000 down even before any restoration was done to the car. Hiring a great talent such as Aaron Kaufman as part of his team was probably one of the best decisions Richard Rawlings made in his life. His leading mechanic was a straight-A guy in school who only dropped out of college because he was more interested in building cars. Aaron was one of the main reasons why Gas Monkey Garage became successful, and Richard never denied it. Sometime in 2017, he bid everyone in Fast and Loud goodbye, to the surprise of fans. Everyone immediately concluded that Richard and Aaron had irreconcilable differences, and that they needed to part ways. They never fought in public, and never said bad things about each other during interviews, but Aaron admitted that he had a personal and professional difference of opinions with the TV show producers. He wanted to build bigger and better cars, but which he wasn't allowed to do, and so he felt that he had to leave. While the show continued for a few more seasons before it was canceled, it wasn't the same anymore, as Aaron also took with him his fans from the show. However, the biggest impact was felt in Richard's auto shop business, because a lot of clients respected Aaron's ingenuity and followed him when he opened his own shop. When Gas Monkey Garage lost money in one of their projects for the first time, the production crew of Fast and Loud were at a loss. Richard recalled, "They were like, what do we do with that?" And he told them to go and show it to the viewers. He didn't have any problem sharing with the world his misfortunes or failures. Losing money on wrong decisions at auctions, buying a useless car, being involved in accidents, or losing a valued employee might have given him some stress, but it never brought him down. Richard Rawlings had always been a keen businessman, and he knew how to bounce back from any unfortunate situation. He used the experiences as inspirations to do better with the next opportunity he was given. Build a better car, use a different business approach, hire another talented mechanic, and never give up on pushing for more. One of his greatest fulfillments in life was to help other people get through their lives comfortably. He said, "I know that I've got to do my job better and harder than anyone in that building, so that everyone there can take care of their families." After ending his contract with Discovery Channel, he continued what he had been doing in his reality show, but with a different platform, YouTube. His official channel now had a little over 1 million subscribers, and would have had more if he was allowed by his contract to be active about his work on social media at the time when his TV shows were at their peak.
I'm out of here. You're terminated. Yeah, I'm going to work for Gas Monkey, and your dagger tattoo looks like a penis.
Thank you for spending some time with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpicked these videos, which we recommend you watch next. You can talk to us on social media or ask a question in the comments below. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.